Hello, my name is Summer Swift. I'm a student at Texas Lutheran University, and I'm an SI for Anatomy and Physiology. This is a project for my medical terminology class. I will be focusing on Chapter 16, specifically Learning Objective 16.4, Eye Anatomy and Physiology. So the anatomy of the eye, I'm going to go structure by structure for you. So the sclera is the white of the eye that you can see on the outside. Sclere is in reference to sclera. The next layer of the eye is the choroid, sometimes called choroid plexus. The retina is the innermost layer, and this is where all the neural wiring is. So retin is the root word for retina, and it's in reference to a retina. The cornea is the clear layer where light first enters the eye. The cornea is a continuous structure with the sclera. The difference between the cornea and the sclera is in the sclera, the fibers are all intertwined and intermixed and on top of each other so that it appears white. But in the cornea, all those fibers are parallel with each other and lined neatly, so light can pass through it neatly. The iris is the next structure. This is the coloring of the eye, and the iris is on top of the sphincter papillae muscle, and this is the muscle that controls the diameter of the pupil. So pupil is in reference to the pupil. The lens is what is changed shape to accommodate for near or far vision. It refracts the light to focus it on the retina in the posterior side of the eye. So breaking down refraction, refract means to break up, and shun is the action of, so the action of breaking up light. The pupil, like I said earlier, is an absence of a structure. It's not a structure on its own, and the sphincter papillae muscle is what changes the diameter. The ciliary body is the muscle that changes the shape of the lens, and that's called accommodation. Cili is eyelid, and areas pertaining to, so pertaining to the eyelid. The optic nerve over here on the posterior side is cranial nerve number 2. Opt is in reference to vision or eye, and ic is pertaining to, so pertaining to vision or pertaining to the eye. Getting rid of all that jumble for you, the anterior cavity and the posterior cavity are the two main regions of the eye. The structure that defines these two regions is the back of the ciliary body. In the anterior cavity, we have two more regions, the anterior chamber and posterior chamber. The structure that divides this is the iris. In the anterior cavity, we have aqueous humor. Aquae is watery, us is pertaining to, and humor is a liquid, so pertaining to a liquid that has a watery appearance or watery substance. The posterior cavity is also called vitreous cavity. Vitri means glassy. Us is pertaining to, and humor is liquid, just like the aqueous humor. So this liquid is more of a jelly-like substance. It looks shiny, clear. That's why it's called glassy. So this picture is, let's say I took this section of the retina and I'm blowing it up for you so you can see all the individual cells. So light comes in from the anterior side and hits the back of the retina, which is this pigmented layer. I tell my students the pigmented layer is like a black t-shirt. It absorbs all the light, it absorbs all the photons, so that it doesn't refract the light back out of the eye. Otherwise, we would be walking around with flashlights coming out of our eyes because all the light would be coming in and then refracting right back out. So the pigmented layer absorbs all these photons to be processed. The first layer of cells that process the light are rods and cones, and these are called photoreceptors. So breaking down photoreceptor, photo is light, recept, receive, and OR, that which does something. So cells that receive light and process. The next layer that processes the light are bipolar cells. Bi meaning two, pole, poles, and AR pertaining to. So pertaining to something that has two poles, in this case a cell that processes the light. Then the third layer of cells that process the light are ganglion cells. These ganglion cells have super long axons. These axons start at the cell and go all the way back to the optic nerve and create the optic nerve, which then goes all the way back to the occipital lobe in the brain and the visual cortex. So let me give you a better visual here. So let's say I took this whole section from right here. These ganglion cells, which are sitting right here, their axons go the full length of the rest of the retina, and then back the optic nerve all the way back to the visual cortex. The blind spot, or optic disc, is where the optic nerve leaves the eye. Here we don't have any photoreceptors, we don't have any rods and cones, so there's no way to process light. But because we have two eyes, our vision overlaps each other, so we don't notice it in everyday life. This concludes my project over Chapter 16, Learning Objectives 16.4. I hope this helped you understand the medical terminology of the eye, the anatomy and physiology of them.